It is that time now once again, for getting lumped up with my friends. It's Rock a Mike and Rob that you should know, and you'll find them here on the Rock Show. Ooh, yeah, on the Rock Show.
Hello, people. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Rock Show. This is episode 144. We are talking about the making of full solo Kiss album after the Kiss had like a little argument, and they each were like, you know what? Why don't we each write an album and see which one is the best one?
Yeah.
Am I right so far, Mike?
More or less. I don't know if it was really an argument as of a strategy. Okay. This was the four records came out at the same time in September of 1978. Now, prior to that, going back to 77 or so, they were really, on top of the world. They were selling more records than anybody. Okay. They were on an extensive tour of the world. But, with all that going on, they're like a lot of bands that we've discussed, that you could be at the height of your popularity with the fans, but you've got problems within the group. Okay. And the problem pretty much was Ace. Okay. Who was feeling kind of like, his songs weren't being used. And, I think he just wanted to party more than touring at that point. There was a little, he had his problems. Peter had his problems. And I think that they felt, Peter and Ace felt that the light was too much on Gene and Paul. Now, Ace was making moves that he wanted to leave the band even, okay? And they were burned out. They were tired from touring going into 1978. They've been on tour constantly since 74, basically, okay? And by 76, they really, with Destroyer, and 75 with the first live album, then they were burned out and they needed time. So interestingly, Bill Aucoin agreed with all that. He says, okay, Bill Aucoin was their manager, and he said, we'll put out some solo records, but we're going to do it. We're not going to call it like an Ace Frehley album. We're not going to call it a Gene Simmons album. Okay, we're going to call it a Kiss album. So, but just with their names on the album covers. It was never done before. Also, what was never done was 4 albums by, solo records coming out at the same time. And that never happened. And actually, it's never happened since. It's the only time in history that's ever happened with a band. So, basically, the underlying tensions and stuff, they were hoping to work that through, okay, by releasing some solo records. They also had another strategy. Okay, and I won't get into it too much because it's not really what we're talking about today. But they were going to make that movie, Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, okay, in 78. So they were kind of off the road. They were working on solo records individually, and then they were also going to make this TV movie, which is what it was. Okay, though it was released in the theaters, and that ended up being a total disaster.
That movie was terrible.
Yeah, you watch it now and you just laugh because it's so bad. But it really was a clunker back then. They were like, oh shit, we just made a piece of garbage.
And what they were using, they weren't even there for most of the time. Sometimes.
Right. If you remember the Kiss documentary earlier this year when they were talking about it, Peter and Ace were off doing other things, and they just dubbed in their voices with other people. And other stunt actors and stuff, doubles,
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is.
So let's talk about Ace album first. Want to do Ace's album first?
No. We're gonna go in a little bit different order with this, okay?
All right.
But now the interesting thing you got to note with this project that they were gonna do is that on Casablanca Records, they had reworked their contract in 1976 with them. Okay, they'd been on that label since 74. And in the contract, a lot of people don't know this, is there was actually stipulations for the solo records. And it would count towards their contract. Okay, so each solo record was going to count as a half a Kiss record. So that's kind of why they did it as a Kiss record. You understand? So it went towards their contract. All right. Now, the solo records, one thing they talked about to make sure they were all on the same page is that no other band member would play on your album. You had to get your own people. You had to write your own shit. Okay. So, you know, for instance, Paul Stanley's Ace doesn't play guitar on it. Nothing like that. Okay. You had to get your own people. And that's what they agreed on. And the band members were, the solo records were a chance to kind of like showcase their individual style and musical tastes outside of Kiss as well. Okay. Because, like, for instance, the Peter Criss record doesn't really sound like Kiss at all. I don't know if you've ever heard it. Okay, it's very like almost like an R&B funk band kind of sound. It has some rock and roll to it. Okay, but it doesn't sound anything like Kiss.
It has no rock and roll to it.
yeah, not much. I mean, he does Tossin and Turnin, that old song.
Yeah,
but you know, it to me, it's probably the worst of them. Okay. Paul Stanley's and Ace's are probably the closest to Kiss as to the way they sound. Gene Simmons' album was the most diverse, I would say, because it has hard rock ballads, some songs that are almost like Beatlesque pop sounding. And then there's that strange cover of him singing When You Wish Upon a Star from Disney's Pinocchio, which I think it ruins the whole fucking album, to be honest with you.
I think it was pretty. I thought it was creepy.
It is. And he kind of has said over the years that it was, you know, just something he wanted to do because he liked the song from when he was a kid. Okay. But now also, like, he's got everybody in the kitchen sink on this album. Okay. He's got Aerosmith's Joe Perry, Cheap Trick's Rick Nielsen playing. He's got one of the Doobie Brothers playing. Donna Summer is on it. Cher is on it, who he was with at the time. He was dating her. Bob Seger is on it, backing vocals. And Katie Segal is on that album.
Yeah, which is weird.
Katie Segal, Peg Bundy. Okay.
Yeah, from Made with Children.
Yeah. She had a musical career before she went into TV. Okay, but I think from what I've heard, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but I've always heard I heard back in the 70s that she was like a groupie. I don't know if that's true.
That she was what?
A groupie.
She might have been. I could see her being a groupie.
Yeah, you know, like a Pamela DeBar type, you know, hanging out with all the bands.
Oh, you could totally see Katie Segal be that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I heard. I like Katie Segal. I don't know if it's true or not. Now, all 4 solo albums were released on September 18th, 1978 on Casablanca Records. The label spent about $2.5 million on marketing.
Wow.
Okay. They
That's
also
a lot of money, right?
That back then, yeah. Okay. Now, in each of they had some interesting packaging too with these albums. Is that each album came with a poster, and then it was almost like a piece of a puzzle. So you had to go get all 4, and then you could see how it all played out. It was like their 4 faces.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, the label shipped out 5 million copies right off the bat, which guaranteed everything going platinum. Okay. Oh, somebody's texting me. Give me a second here. Okay, turn that down. Sorry. 5 million copies were shipped out. and that guaranteed platinum status for everything. Now, despite that, none of the albums really sold that well. Okay, so what happened is, out of the four, Gene Simmons' album charted the highest, not sold. Okay, it got to number 22 in the United States, while Ace Frehley had the biggest hit single with Back in the New York Groove.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a cover.
What's that?
That was a cover.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But, yeah, it was a cover of a British band. Okay. Now, it actually, to tell you the truth, it was written by Russell Ballard, who was a member of Argent. Okay, Argent was that band with former members of the Zombies. They had that song, Hold Your Head Up. Oh, hold your head up. Yeah. So he wrote that for a British band called Hello. And then Ace covered it, made it a worldwide hit. Now, let's start at what's really generally considered to be the worst of the solo albums, and I'll agree with that, and that's Peter Criss's record.
Oh, yeah.
It was recorded between April and July of 1978 at Electric Lady Studios in New York. It was also recorded at Burbank Studios in California and Sunset Sound Studios in Hollywood, California. It was produced by Vini Poncia. Now, Poncia would be a name that would come up later on in Kiss history because he would produce the next two Kiss band albums. Okay. Yeah. One called Dynasty, which came out in 79, and Unmasked came out in 1980. Peter Criss decided that he wasn't going to write any new material for this album. Okay. He was going to use material he had written back in 1971 in a band he was in before Kiss that was called Lips.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was very different kind of band than Kiss was. Okay. He had songs on here called "I'm Gonna Love You."
Yeah.
Don't you let me down. That's the
You
kind
matter
of,
to me.
Yeah, that's the kind of sugar Papa likes. That's the name of the song.
Rock me, baby.
Right. Hooked on rock and roll. They also, he also covered the Bobby Lewis song "Tossin and Turnin." Now, not to knock Criss that much, but I mean his persona with Kiss that he had as the Catman, okay, and all that cool drummer persona really didn't carry over with this album. It really didn't. I mean, he didn't sing. He sang a few songs in Kiss, obviously Beth being the big hit, Black Diamond, a bunch of others, Hooligan, bunch of other songs, but it just didn't sound like Peter Criss to me. I don't know. It just was like, what is he doing with this record? So, also, the songs kind of lack any real hook or catchiness to them. They're mostly R&B sounding, which I mean, I like 70s R&B. It just doesn't work here for some reason. This album was the lowest charting of all the solo records. It reached number 43 on Billboard. It did peak at 43, but despite that, it was it was the only solo record really to release two singles. The other three, everybody got just one shot. But for some reason with Peter Criss, they did put out two singles, one called "Don't You Let Me Down" and "You Matter to Me," and neither one charted. Okay, they didn't chart at all. Interestingly, though, is after the whole solo effort was done with the band, that song "Tossin and Turnin" would end up in their live set. He would do that.
Yeah, because it was probably the best song on the album.
Yeah, I would say so.
You know what? Tossin and Turnin was probably the best song they had on the album. So
yeah,
and it was catchy,
I don't know. I feel that if you even compared to the other three, I think Peter put like the least amount of effort into it.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, he was using songs that he wrote 7 years earlier, which may have been okay if they were good songs.
Yeah.
But they really weren't. You know, that's just my opinion. I mean, I know people that like this album. Okay.
Some people also like rap.
Yeah. I mean,
some people like
a lot
heavy
of
metal.
shit.
Some people like
whatever. You know, it's just it's my show and it's my opinion.
It's pretty funny, but this I thought this album was pretty crappy. I thought fucking Paul's album was not good either.
I actually like part of Paul's record. I put it second. Okay, and what's that?
I think Gene. I like Gene's more than Paul's. I like
Do you?
Ace and
I
Gene's.
kind of like Paul's slightly better than Gene's because it's more coherent. The songs kind of work together. Okay,
Yeah.
Gene's shit is all over the place, and he's got he just. I mean, I was going to talk about that next. Now, it's the most diverse sounding. Okay.
Yeah, because he had everybody in there.
He had everybody on there. And some people I've spoken with kind of don't even like to count this as a solo effort because he's got so many guest people on there. It's like an ensemble. I'll give him that because it's his record. He can do whatever he wants with it. Okay, but it never really coalesces into a good record. It's better than Peter's, but for me, it's not as good as the other two. But now, one thing he did too is he didn't play bass on this album. And normally he was the bass player, Kiss. Okay. He kind of passed that off to a couple of people, mostly session musician Neil Jason would play bass. What he did mostly on the album was play guitar, acoustic and electric. Guitarist Joe Perry from Aerosmith is on the album.
This is a who's, and this also charted, and this charted the highest, right? Because this went to
it charted the highest. Yeah, it charted the highest. It got to number 22 as an album, but the single off
he had Joe Perry, he had Bob Seger,
right?
He had freaking Donna Summer, Cher. He had like an all-star cast.
Cher just is doing backing vocals, and she's got that part where she sounds like she's talking on a phone on that one song. It's like it's not. I mean, he was banging her at the time. He was going out with her. But he put her on the record. Now, interesting. Helen Reddy is on this record. Okay, I Am Woman. She's singing backups on this record. So. He re-recorded.
And it's funny seeing Katie Seagal name on that
Seagal is on backing vocal. Yeah. Now he re-recorded a Kiss song for this album, a song he had written called "See You in My Dreams." That was on the album "Rock and Roll Over."
Yeah.
He did it on his record because he said he never liked how it sounded on the Kiss record. He didn't think it came out good. The songs "Burning Up with Fear," Man of a Thousand Faces, and True Confessions were originally demoed for the Destroyer album. Okay. But they got rejected by producer Bob Ezrin. Remember we did a show on Destroyer?
Yeah.
Okay. And Bob Ezrin was the producer. He turned down those songs. He didn't think they were good enough. See You Tonight was also a demo from some sessions in 1975 that they did. And also, Mr. Make Believe was an early demo as well.
I could see that one too.
Yeah. I mean, some of those you could see them being Kiss songs. You know what I mean? Now, Tunnel of Love and Burning Up with Fever featured backing vocals from Donna Summer, and Cher can be heard on that phone call part in the song "Living in Sin."
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Radioactive was supposed to be the hit. Okay, that was the single, and it was the only single they released on that album. It featured Joe Perry on guitar and peaked at number 47 as a single. Okay, so it didn't go top 40. The strangest track, we mentioned it before, on the album is the cover of the Disney song Wish Upon a Star.
What the hell was he thinking?
You know, he says he liked the song as a kid, okay, and he knew that song even before he could speak English. Remember, he's from Israel, okay? So he knew the song, he liked it, he liked what it said, the message of it, how you could be anything, you know, and I guess it just was so out there, he figured, fuck it, I'll sing it. I don't know. You know what's funny is so many of these things you could blame on drugs, but Gene didn't do drugs, so I don't know.
He didn't do drugs.
He didn't do drugs, so I don't know what he was thinking.
He must have been smoking the good shit, man.
Nah, he didn't even do that. He just banged a lot of chicks. You know? Habitually.
You know what's funny? All these albums were all like 35 minutes, 36 minutes long.
That's all you need.
You know, it's like, so it's almost like they made like, it's like a Kiss album. Then you put it all together. It's like a full long album.
Yeah, I mean, it 35 minutes is enough. I mean, Kiss records were about that long, maybe 40. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's nothing. I mean, punk records were a lot shorter than that. You know, they were coming out.
I'm saying when you put all four albums together, it's like a little over 2 hours of music.
Oh yeah, if you put them all together, yeah,
you know?
Definitely, yeah. Now, Gene co-produced this album with Kiss choreographer named Sean Delaney. He's known mostly for the choreography they did with the guitars and the way they would be out on stage. Okay, this album peaked at number 22, and it was recorded in the studios in the UK, New York City, and Los Angeles. So he was all over the place with this as well. Now, Paul Stanley's solo effort was, to me, very well thought out. Okay, and I always feel this is like the second best of the records. Some disagree, but I that's how I see it. It was very well thought out.
Yeah,
it's the only album out of the four that doesn't have a cover song on it, and he wrote specifically for this record. So I think he put a lot into it to make it a good record. And I think that's Paul's work ethic. You know, he's very, you know, he puts his nose to the grind and he works. And again, he didn't really do drugs or anything like that either. So that was his thing. You know, this album was recorded between February and July of '78 at Electric Lady Studios in New York City, and the Record Player and the Village Recorder in LA.
Yeah.
It's probably, you know, between Ace and Paul's, like these two are the most Kiss sounding, you know?
Yeah, but these were the, Ace and Paul were the most rock and roll one.
Yeah. Well, Kiss sounding to me. Like maybe that's because Paul sang, you know, lead on many Kiss songs, and it just sounds like a Kiss record almost. It's going to naturally do that because he's singing. It was produced by him and producer Jeff Glicksman, who worked with a band called Kansas in the past, if you remember Kansas.
Oh, I know Kansas, yeah.
Yeah. Dust in the Wind, all that, right? Yeah.
Werewolf Son.
Right. Now, all songs were written by Paul, except for Move On, Ain't Quite Right, and Take Me Away. They were co-written by a guy named Michael Japp, who was a Welsh songwriter who was at that time known for working with the band The Babies. The Babies were John Waite's first band. John Waite, I Ain't Missing You at All, that song.
Yeah.
He had a band before he was solo called The Babies. They're pretty good. They're all right, kind of power pop-ish, you know, pretty good sounding. I like a couple of songs by them.
Yeah, you can tell by the writing they was very power pop, like a very rock and roll, you know.
Very like, a typical 70s rock and roll record. Really, just very, very typical of the time. The song Hold Me, Touch Me, Think of Me When We're Apart was the first and only single. And the second most successful track of the four solo albums. It actually charted for 12 weeks, peaking at number 46 on Billboard. He just was almost scratching the top 40 with that song. He didn't quite make it. Okay, so now we're up to what's considered the best, and I agree it is, and that's Ace's album.
Ace's album was definitely the most rock and roll, the best one. That album was fantastic.
Yeah. Now, did you buy these albums? Did you buy these albums when you were a kid?
Huh?
Did you buy these albums when you were a kid? Did you remember them?
I didn't buy them, but I heard them like in my friend's house. I went to my buddy's house. They had albums, like the parents or whoever was the parental. Yeah. I had a few parents that were like hardcore rock and rollers, like leather pants going out. And the kids had all these songs.
I was about 10 years old when these came out, and I was a big Kiss fan then. And it was like a really big thing. I mean, it was commercials on TV about them, and
I had Kids stuff. I had all that stuff growing up. Kids comic book, Kids coloring book.
Kids coloring book. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Kids lunchbox, everything.
I mean, they were the first band to market themselves that way. You know, they made a ton of money like that. And if you remember the Kiss documentary earlier this year, I think it was on AMC, right? Or A&E.
Yeah,
it was on A&E. Peter Criss actually didn't like that marketing, right? Didn't he? No. He didn't like. I mean, but he was making a ton of money with it. You know what I mean? I guess he felt it was too much of a sellout thing to do. But
remember the Kiss radio?
Yeah, very rare. If you have that today, that's worth something. The Kiss radio. Yep. All right, so Ace's solo album. Now, it's considered to be the best, and I would say it is. According to Ace Frehley, he has said in the past that some of the tracks on here were meant for the album Rock and Roll Over, but they didn't use it. That was the fifth Kiss album that had come out. Now, the record was produced by Ace Frehley and Eddie Kramer. Okay, Eddie Kramer had worked with them in the past. He was known as he was a producer for Electric Ladyland and other studios, but he was known for that. The record was recorded mostly in the UK, Connecticut, and the Plaza Hotel in New York City. Okay. Tell you the truth, I don't know. Is that when? I'm not sure if it's the Plaza Hotel or it's called the Plaza Studios. I'm not sure.
It might be Plaza. It might be Plaza Studio. It can be.
Might be. Yeah, it might be. It might be. Ace Frehley plays lead guitar on this. He also plays rhythm guitar on some tracks, acoustic guitar synthesizer, and bass on a few songs as well. A guy named Will Lee, who would end up, he would play bass on the song Ozone, I'm in Need of Love, and Wiped Out. Okay, and Will Lee would go on to play for the CBS Orchestra and be part of David Letterman's World's Most Dangerous Band with Paul Schaefer and all that. Okay, much later on. Anton Fig, okay, plays drums. He would go on to play with Letterman's band as well. There was a guy named Carl Tallarico. Okay, he plays on He plays on Fractured Mirror. Okay, and the only single that was released was the monster hit Back in the New York Groove.
Yep.
Okay. Now the story again, just so we get to it, it was written by Russ Ballard, who was in Argent, and there was a glam rock band in England called Hello.
Yeah, Hello.
That was their name. They were kind of on the tail end of glam. Like the song was written in 1975.
Yeah.
Glam rock was pretty much almost over at that point in England, but this band would be considered kind of a glam rock band. It was recorded for them. They recorded it. They had a minor hit in England with it, but when Ace did it a couple years later, 3 years later, it would end up getting to number 13 on the Billboard charts, and you still hear that song today. Okay, New York.
You hear that song every so often, like in movies and stuff.
Movies. It's also in hockey games and Ranger games. You hear it, other sporting events and stuff. We're both lumped up today, right?
Yeah, man. And this album also was the one that reached. It actually sold 1 million copies.
Yeah, it was certified platinum right away. It was the first one to really be categorized that way. October 2nd, 1978. So I believe September 18th was when all these albums were released. So by October 2nd, it was already platinum. So that's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
But then again, they did ship out a lot of copies beforehand. So there's a little bit of a difference between the shipping and the actual buying. I don't know, like sometimes they do this. They do it a lot now, okay? When it comes to books, when it comes to records and stuff, albums, it's based on how many that are shipped out, not how many are bought. All right. I remember seeing probably by 1979 all 4 of these records in the cutout bins. Okay, so they were selling them for cheaper. So I don't know exactly how many they sold, even though they were really considered platinum, just because of the amount that was shipped out.
You know what's funny? After a while, Tower Record had these albums like in the bins.
Yeah.
Like cheap bins, the Kiss albums. Do you remember that?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I would say within 6 months of these albums being out, they weren't selling anymore, and they were in the cutout bin for $1.
It was fucking funny to see that.
And what I mean by cutout bin is, for all you young people, they used to put a little slice off the corner of the record, and they would cut it, and they would go in the cutout bin, and that meant it was for discount. I got a lot. I still have a ton of records in my collection with that little cut,
That's pretty funny. That I didn't even realize that's why they did it. That's why they did that.
Yeah. Now, I mean, to this day, Ace Frehley, when he plays live, he does Back in the New York Groove, and a lot of songs on this album. I mean, I love Rip It Out. That's the first song on the album. That kicks ass right away. Ozone is great. Snowblind. He's talking about cocaine. Okay.
Yeah, like this one, Speeding Back to My Baby.
Yeah.
Who wrote that?
He did.
But his wife wrote it too?
I think he had his wife, I think, was involved with the writing process.
They say over here for writing credit it's Frehley, and then say Jeanette Frehley.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that's true.
Because there's 1 or 2 albums that he didn't do. That he also got like Larry Kelly and Sue Kelly.
Yep.
Help him write Rip It Out.
Rip It Out, right.
I mean, that was a good song, Rip It Out.
Yeah, that's like probably my favorite on the album, I think.
I like What's on Your Mind also is pretty good.
Definitely. It's a solid album. It could have, you could have took that album and made a Kiss album out of it, and it would have been better. It would have been better than the next 2 albums they did, because one thing I got to tell you, something changed in the band after these albums came out. All right, and I remember when Dynasty came out, which was it came out later on in '79. I said to myself, first of all, they had the disco song on there, "I Was Made for Loving You,"
which was one of their biggest hits.
It was one of their biggest hits. You can't say nothing about it, but it's a disco song, and it was kind of like, what are they doing? All right, and Unmasked is not that great. Okay, Ace Peter would leave in this time, and Ace would eventually leave. They would get Vinnie Vincent. The next couple of years was a whole shift into something else, and then by, I don't know, like when was it, like 84, I think, they took within 5 years, they took the makeup off.
Yeah.
All right. So it was totally different band. But
they even look uncomfortable without the makeup.
Yeah. Well, that was something to get used to when that happened. Okay. I started to tune out already at that point. I was into different things. But they do, I mean, that 80s version of Kiss, there is some good songs, but there's not many. It's not many. And and if you remember the documentary, when we just we even talked about it too, because we did that show on it. They admitted it, that some of those songs sucked.
They were bad. They were
bad. But I just the Paul album and the Ace album, I think you could have got at least, if you took those songs, you would have got like one very good Kiss album out of them. Okay. Gene's is listenable. It's okay. It's all over the place. It's more of, to me, it's almost like a novelty in a way to just hear him do work with all these people and all these different kinds of songs. And then it ends with Wish Upon a Star as the last song. And you're like, oh God, where did this album just go? Just, but then, and unfortunately, Peter's, I mean, I threw it on when I was researching the podcast here. I haven't heard it in shit. I can't remember the last time I listened to that. I had to be a teenager the last time I listened to that album.
And it's still good to today.
Peter's? No, it's still bad.
I mean, Ace. Ace.
Peter out of all four solo albums, Ace is the one that stands the test of time. To me, I listen to Ace's album in a regular way. Paul's every once in a while I'll throw it on, but Gene's and especially Peter's I had not heard in a long time. My buddy Keith years ago had given me a picture disc of Gene's album. It was re-released, I think, in Europe somewhere on a picture disc, which is cool. I like that. So that's all I got for you today, Mr. Rob.
So if you were ranking these albums, it would be Peter, Gene, Paul, and Ace number one.
Yeah, worst to first.
Yeah,
definitely.
From the worst to the best.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole concept behind it is interesting, and it just something changed in the band after these four records came out, which would lead to a whole different thing. I think with Ace, with his record, I think he was proud of it, and it kind of gave him that confidence that he could go on to bigger things, which he would leave the band eventually and start Frehley's Comet and other solo efforts that he did. I think Peter, I don't know what he was thinking because he didn't really put a lot into it. Okay, he was using songs from 71 in a different band that, but then again, there's another way to look at that. At least he had the balls to do something different.
Yeah. Something
maybe you didn't expect. So I give him that.
So did Gene in a way. His album was very different.
Yeah. But Gene,
what's the problem? If these guys were working together, this could have been just one great Kiss album, if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, you could have took, even off of Peter's album, because Tossin and Turnin, even though he didn't write it, but Tossin and Turnin, the way he did it was good, and it ended up in the Kiss live show, 79.
Yeah, like if you would have done that, then you take New York Groove, then you take a song from Paul, and it would have been a great Kiss album.
Without a doubt, and it probably would have been better than Dynasty or Unmasked.
Yeah, it would have blown all those albums out.
Yeah, but the thing is they had they had agreed that it wasn't going to be that way. It was going to be a break away from the band to work on your own shit, and they all did it. And no one's ever done that. No other band has ever done that.
Well, you were trying. So this was considered as one of the albums, right?
When you,
the deal.
When you. Yeah, well, the record label, it counted as a half a Kiss record. Okay, so Ace's album counted as a half a Kiss record to their contract of 5 before they would run out their contract. So 5, it would be 4 solos would be 2 Kiss records.
Okay.
Towards their contract. Okay, so really, if you think about it. And that's interesting because a lot of people don't know that it counted that way, okay? And that was built into their contract 2 years earlier. So I think that there was discussion. There had to be discussion in 76 about doing solo records. And it was a part of the contract that would count. So I mean, that's interesting that would even be in there.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Now, so in '76, they started a 5-record deal. Okay, I think it was before Destroyer came out. I want to think it is. So '76, Destroyer came out. Then you had what was the next one? '76. Love Gun is in there. Okay, and then you got the 4 albums counting as 2. So that's
a lot of albums.
Yeah, so that's 4 records. I hope I'm not forgetting one. Four records in 2 years. Okay, so really all they had to do was come out with Dynasty, or if I'm skipping one, maybe Unmasked, and then it would be the contract would be out.
Yeah, then they pretty much fulfilled the.
Yeah, and then you could rework it for more money, or actually Casablanca would go under eventually.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a way, I guess, to get out of the contract quicker.
That's what it sounds like. They did something to get the fuck out of the fucking contract.
Well, or the option to, if let's do some solo records and it'll count. Pretty good contract if you think about it. Bill Aucoin really worked well with Casablanca to get that done. If you think about it.
Think about how long they worked with Casablanca too.
Well, yeah, I mean, Casablanca was mostly a disco label. That's what Donna Summer was on.
Yeah.
That's why she's on that record. She's part of that label. Okay, the disco label, but they were the one rock band that was on it.
They probably needed a rock band because they probably didn't have any rock bands.
I don't think they did at the time. I think Kiss was the first rock band that they signed. They would sign others, but no one would be as big as Kiss.
I still never forget that they had that fucking disco album, which.
Well, one song. It's not an album. But yeah, I Was Made for Loving You. I like that song, and whenever they always play it live, okay, they do it, and I saw them back in 2019, and they did it.
Yeah, so you were right there. After those solo album, they took out Rock and Roll Over. Then they had Love Gun. Then they took out Dynasty, Unmasked.
Right.
And music from the Elders.
the Elder, yeah. Well, that was you talk about a disaster. It's funny. Being a lifelong Kiss fan, I've met people that are, really rabid Kiss fans, more than me. Okay, and some of them really love the Elder. And
dude, that was pure garbage.
Garbage. I've tried to. When that came out, I heard it and I went, "No, what are they doing?" Okay, and what was he was talking about? Paul Stanley when he was walking down 8th Street and he saw the movie, the billboard of the album. And what the fuck did we do?
It was garbage. It was pure garbage, man. Garbage.
Yeah. Also, too,
the Night was a little better. Then Lick It Up, they got a little better.
Well, Lick It Up, they were all taking the mask off, so they were taking the makeup off, But shout out to people on Facebook, because when I announced that we were doing a show on these albums, a bunch of people wrote some stories about how they met Paul, how they met Gene, how they met Ace, and Peter, and everybody unanimously said Gene's an asshole. Okay. But do you expect anything less? You know what I mean?
He's he's a strange bird.
Yeah.
Say that.
Yeah, I don't hate the guy. I like the guy, but he's just he's got his issues.
He is what he is.
But some people were writing on my Facebook page, oh yeah, I met Paul one time walking down the street, like in the city, and he just signed an autograph. He was really nice, like cool, I mean, they're just New York guys,
Then they met Gene, and he's an asshole.
Yeah, Gene didn't want to sign an autograph, and then he reluctantly did it, that kind of thing, you know. So, all right, Rob, that's all I got for you, my man.
You want to hear a funny Gene story? The only time I ever saw Gene was one time on Park Avenue South. He was doing an episode of The Apprentice.
Oh, I remember that one.
And they were setting something. I don't know what the hell they were, but I saw him walk and say, and I go to whatever girl I was with. That guy looks like Gene Simmons. And then I see the episode on TV. It was Gene Simmons.
Yeah. I think they used to shoot that at NBC Studios.
Yeah, but they shot something. He had like a buzz or something. They were selling something. Oh,
okay. It was out. Yeah.
And I think all the other groups were supposed to sell it. His thing sold them also.
Right.
It was funny, but it was called, it's Gene Simmons. So it was pretty funny to see that. So
definitely.
So, Mike, how can people reach you? Because we're winding down the end of the year. We got 6 more episodes before the Rockshow.
Not even, my man. I think remember we're taking a little hiatus in December with the shows.
No, I know that, but we got 6 more episodes before 150.
Oh, before 150. I thought you meant the end of the year. No, 150 will be a little bit after the new year.
It should be like in the middle of either January or the beginning of February.
Wow.
150 episode.
All right, so maybe we'll do something. We'll look back at some shows. We'll do something. I don't know what yet.
It should be good, you know. It should be good. It should be like a recap. Maybe we should do the top 20 best album we have review for the 150 show.
That's a possibility. We'll figure it out.
And talk about making it is kind of like from number 1, like from worst to best that we have done.
Yeah, all right. Sounds like a plan, or something like that'll work, I'm sure.
I can tell you Cheap Trip might be number 20.
Okay. Live at Budokan. All right. So if you're looking for me on Facebook, I'm on the Rocko Mike. Also on the Rock Show podcast group page on Facebook. Find me on Instagram under Rocker Mike 212. I'm on MeWe and Clout Hub under Rocker Mike. And where can we find you, Rob?
You can find me on anything lumped up. If you see something that says lumped up or whatever, you're going to see my big head with beer in the bottom. And then you know you're at the right channel. And then from there, you can follow all our shows. And I got to say, people, you guys are doing a great job. I see you listening to us on Apple Podcasts. And we're doing a lot of business with Apple Podcasts. You guys are listening to us there. Then we have people that listen to us on Spotify. A lot of people listen to us on Spotify and also Anchor.
Pandora, too.
Our numbers have been going crazy. We're getting like 150 downloads a day. And you know what? The show's picking up momentum. The YouTube channel just reached 2,600 subscriber. I need another 2,400 subscribers so we can hit 5,000 subscribers. So that's going up. We went up 190 members in the last month. So, you know, things are starting to move forward the right way. We're also looking for advertisers. So if you want to advertise, you're going to reach a very good audience. You're going to reach a lot of local people that are native New Yorkers. And you're going to reach some people in Sweden, Japan, and Germany, where we're ranking in the chart. So I got to
doing very well in Sweden.
Everybody.
Yeah, we're doing really good in Sweden. Hey, if you have anything that you have a business that you want to advertise, could be anything, okay? Any kind of product, anything like that you want to talk about, advertise, we're definitely looking for sponsors with that. Also, I want to mention on the Rock Show podcast group page, I need everybody to vote, okay? I want to have 4 shows set aside next year, like we did last year, where we'll take your suggestions on bands to talk about, artists to talk about. Haven't been getting many votes yet. So, guys, do that for me on the Rock Show podcast group page on Facebook.
All right, Mike. So how do we end every show?
Don't get drunk.
Get lumped up.
Take care,
next
people.
Week.
All right.
tell your friends and everyone you know. Let's get lumped up on the rock show.